The grand throne room of the Varexian Empire shimmered with cold blue light. High walls of crystal metal reflected the faces of hundreds of alien nobles gathered there. Every gaze was proud, distant, and filled with silent judgment. At the center of the hall stood Princess Arya Varex. Her silver skin glowed faintly under the light, and her long white hair shimmered like strands of frozen fire. She wore a ceremonial robe that once symbolized royalty. Now it only reminded her of what she had lost. The Emperor, her father, sat upon the high throne. His expression was unreadable, his voice calm but sharp enough to cut through silence. Today, he declared, we complete our peace with the humans, and as a gesture of goodwill, he paused and glanced toward Arya. We offer them our daughter. A low murmur rippled through the hall. The alien nobles exchanged cruel smiles. Arya felt her chest tighten. She had known this was coming, but hearing it aloud struck like a blade. For years, she had been called the Barren Princess. Born with a rare defect that made her unable to bear children, she had been seen as a failure in a culture where bloodline and heirs meant everything. Her title had become a curse. Now her father was using that curse for politics. Arya looked up slowly. You are giving me away? She asked quietly. The Emperor's eyes didn't soften. You will bring honor to your name by serving peace at last. The humans will accept our gesture. You should be grateful. Laughter echoed among the nobles. One voice whispered, let the humans have our broken toy. Arya's hands clenched. She wanted to scream, to cry, but centuries of royal training kept her still. A Varexian princess did not show emotion even when her heart was breaking. Moments later, the hall doors opened. A group of human diplomats and soldiers entered, led by a tall man in dark uniform, Captain Marcus Hale. He was nothing like the Varexians. His eyes were sharp, alive, and filled with something strange, warmth. The air around him carried quiet confidence, not arrogance. When he stepped forward, he didn't bow deeply or tremble before the Emperor. He simply nodded with respect. Captain Hale of Earth, he introduced himself. We come in peace. The Emperor gestured lazily. Then accept our gift. The Princess Arya Varex will join you as a sign of unity between our species. Marcus turned his head slightly, looking at Arya. He saw her pale face, the sadness behind her calm expression, and the silent laughter of her people around her. It didn't take him long to understand what was happening. This is a gift? He asked, voice steady. The Emperor smiled thinly. A symbol, yes. A joining of our bloodlines. Though hers are of no use, more laughter. Arya felt humiliation burn inside her, but Marcus did not laugh. He simply stepped forward, his tone respectful yet firm. If she comes with us, she'll be treated as a guest, he said. Not as a thing to trade. The Emperor raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. You humans are strange. You accept a broken heir and still talk of honor. Marcus met his gaze. Honor doesn't depend on what a person can give. It depends on how we treat those who have been given nothing. For the first time in her life, Arya felt someone speak for her, not out of pity, but with conviction. The Emperor shrugged. Take her then. She's yours to protect or to waste. And so the deal was sealed. Arya was escorted from the hall past rows of laughing Varexian nobles. Her own people turned their eyes away from her as if she were a ghost. When she stepped aboard the human starship UHS Resolute, the heavy metal doors closed behind her with a hiss. The moment the ship left orbit, she realized, for the first time, she was free from the Varexian Empire. But she was also alone in a world she didn't understand. The Resolute was different from any ship Arya had ever seen. It was practical, not decorated. Its halls were narrow and filled with sounds, footsteps, laughter, voices. Humans moved everywhere, not bowing, not standing stiffly like soldiers of her empire. Marcus walked beside her, speaking gently. I know this wasn't your choice, he said. But while you're here, you'll have your own quarters, your own privacy, and your own freedom. Arya tilted her head slightly. Freedom? The word felt strange in her mouth. He nodded. Yes, you're not a prisoner, princess. She looked at him carefully. Then what am I to you? Marcus thought for a moment before answering. A person. Someone my people insulted by calling a gift. Arya stared at him, confused. In her world, kindness without reason did not exist. Yet this human captain spoke as if respect was natural, as if she was worth it. He led her to a small room, not grand, but warm. There was a window showing endless stars. She turned toward it and whispered, "I've never seen the galaxy like this." Marcus smiled. "Out here, the stars don't care who you are. They shine for everyone." After he left, Arya stood alone in her cabin. For a long time, she just watched the stars, trying to understand this strange new feeling growing inside her. Peace. Days turned into weeks. Arya slowly began to learn the rhythms of human life aboard the ship. They spoke openly, laughed easily, and argued without fear. No one called her Barren. No one whispered behind her back. The human crew treated her with quiet respect. Some were curious about her alien culture. Others just smiled politely. She started joining them for meals, though human food was odd and full of flavors she couldn't name. Once she dropped a tray by accident. In the Phyrexian palace, that would have earned her a lifetime of mockery. Here a crewman simply helped her pick it up, grinning.
"Happens to all of us," he said. Arya found herself smiling, a real small smile, for the first time in years. Captain Marcus checked on her often.
He was a man of few words, but every word carried weight. When he talked about Earth, his tone was proud yet humble. He spoke of oceans, forests, and people who believed in rebuilding even after destruction. One evening, she asked him, "Why did you accept me?" "You knew they were mocking you." Marcus looked at her calmly. "Because no one deserves to be treated like a joke. And because maybe peace starts when someone decides to do the right thing, even if others laugh." Arya stared at him, trying to understand how such a simple species could hold so much strength in their hearts. Later that night, as the ship glided through the quiet of space, she stood by the viewing window. Her reflection in the glass looked different, less like a princess, more like a person discovering herself. For the first time, she whispered a thought she had never dared to think. Maybe I was never broken. Maybe they just never saw me clearly. Back on her homeworld, the Phyrexian nobles mocked the humans for taking their useless princess. But far from their laughter aboard a human ship among strangers, Arya felt something she had never known in her empire of pride: dignity. She didn't know yet that this journey would change everything, not only for her, but for the entire galaxy. For now, she only knew this. When Captain Marcus Hale looked at her, he didn't see a curse. He saw someone worth saving, and deep within her heart, the Barren princess began to feel something awaken. Not just hope, but the faint spark of life. The UHS Resolute sailed through the darkness of space like a quiet guardian. For Princess Arya Verex, every passing day aboard the human ship felt like walking through another world. She had grown up surrounded by golden halls, marble corridors, and silent servants who bowed with fear. But here, the ship was made of gray steel and humming engines. The air was filled with laughter, footsteps, and music. Humans were loud, chaotic, and alive, and yet somehow it felt more peaceful than her father's palace ever had. In the morning, the corridors buzzed with activity. Humans in uniforms moved quickly, talking, joking, and working together like one great machine. Arya often watched them from a distance, fascinated. No one ordered them with cruelty, yet everyone obeyed. They respected their leader not because they feared him, but because they trusted him. Captain Marcus Hale was at the center of it all. Calm, confident, and steady, he led with quiet authority. He never shouted. He never demanded. And still everyone listened. One day, Arya stood near the control deck, observing silently as Marcus discussed flight paths with his officers. She didn't speak, but Marcus noticed her. "Princess Arya," he said gently. "You can come closer. You don't have to stand back like that." She hesitated. "In my world, it is rude for a lower one to stand near a captain during command." Marcus smiled. "Then it's good you're not in your world anymore." That simple sentence made her blink. For a moment, she felt her heart beat faster, not in fear, but in wonder. Later, during lunch hours, the humans invited her to join them in the mess hall. She had never eaten with commoners before. On Phyrexia, the royal family ate alone, served by quiet attendants. But here, even the captain sat with his crew. The humans passed trays of food, talking about their families, their hobbies, and small funny things from their day. When Arya sat down, the room went quiet for a moment, and everyone looked at her. A young human woman smiled kindly. "Princess, do you eat the same stuff we do?" Arya tilted her head. I can try." They laughed softly, not mockingly but warmly. One of the men passed her a plate of something that smelled strange but pleasant. "It's stew," he said. "You'll like it." She took a small bite and blinked. "It's warm." "Most food is," someone joked, and everyone laughed again. At first, Arya was unsure how to react, but then she found herself smiling too. The laughter was not cruel, it was light, free. For the first time, she felt like she belonged at a table where no one looked at her with disgust. Days turned into a rhythm. Arya began learning the human way of work. She spent hours in the engine room, studying their power systems. The ship's engineer, an older man named Chief Donnelly, admired her curiosity. "You've got quick eyes, Princess," he said one day. "Most folks don't notice half the things you do." Arya looked at the glowing reactor. "Your energy design is different. Humans use metal flow and magnetic chambers instead of crystal cores." Donnelly grinned. "We don't have fancy crystals like your people, but we make do with what we got." That phrase stuck in Arya's mind. We make do with what we got. Humans didn't wait for perfection. They built with what they had, even if it wasn't enough. That evening, she told Marcus about it. "Humans survive without perfect tools. You build, fix, and try again. My people would rather destroy something than admit it can be repaired." Marcus chuckled softly. "Maybe that's the difference. We don't like giving up." She looked at him thoughtfully. "You call yourselves young among the stars, yet you act older than most empires." He smiled faintly. "We've had to learn fast. The universe doesn't wait for us," Arya nodded. "No, it never waits." As the days passed, the distance between them slowly vanished. She began speaking to Marcus more freely, asking about Earth, its cities, oceans, and skies. He showed her pictures of blue seas, green forests, and mountains that touched the clouds. She had never seen such colors before. "Your planet," she said softly, "is alive. My world looks like silver and glass and beautiful but cold." Marcus smiled. "Then you'll like Earth. It's messy, noisy, and full of life, just like its people." She turned her gaze toward him, a quiet smile on her lips. "And you call that chaos a home?" "It is," he said simply, but peace never lasted long in space. One day, while Arya was studying star charts in the observation deck, the ship's alarm suddenly rang. Red lights flashed across the corridors. Crew members ran to their stations. Marcus's voice came over the intercom, calm but firm. "All crew to battle readiness. Unknown ships approaching from Virexian territory." Arya froze. Her blood turned cold. She ran to the bridge. The large viewing screen displayed several Virexian warships, their dark silver hulls shining like blades. They were closing in fast. Marcus stood tall at the center. His crew worked quickly, but tension filled the air. "Identification confirmed," said a lieutenant. "It's a Virexian patrol fleet." Arya's heart sank. She recognized the insignia, her father's crest. They had come for her. Marcus turned toward her. "Princess, do you know why they're here?" Arya's voice trembled slightly. "They want me back. They cannot allow their barren princess to live freely among humans. To them I am a stain on their honor." Marcus's jaw tightened. "We won't hand you over." She shook her head quickly. "If you refuse, they'll attack. My people never forgive humiliation. I cannot let your crew die for me." Marcus stepped closer. "We don't abandon those under our protection. Not ever." His voice was quiet but filled with unshakable strength. Arya looked at him, really looked at him, and realized something deep. Humans didn't protect because of blood or duty. They protected because it was right. The bridge trembled slightly as the first warning shots were fired. Energy blasts flashed outside the window. The Virexian fleet surrounded them, shields holding, the officer said. But they're powering main cannons. Marcus gave orders quickly. "Evasive pattern. Don't return fire yet." Arya gripped the console tightly. Her heart raced. She could hear the crew shouting, the engines roaring. She stepped beside Marcus and whispered, "If I surrender, they will leave you unharmed." Marcus turned sharply. "No, you're not property to be traded again." Tears filled her eyes, though she didn't want them to. "You don't understand. They will destroy you just to prove a point." He met her gaze calmly. "Then let them see that humans don't bow to cruelty." Moments later, the Virexian ships opened fire. Explosions lit up the darkness. The Resolute shook violently, alarms blaring, but the crew moved with discipline, their hands steady even under fire. Marcus gave the command. "Return fire. Target their engines, not their cores." Arya watched in awe as humans fought back, not with blind rage but with precision and courage. She saw teamwork, loyalty, and determination that burned brighter than fear. Within minutes, one Virexian ship was disabled. The others hesitated, unsure what to do. Marcus spoke calmly through the comm channel. "This ship carries peace. You fired first. If you continue, we will defend ourselves." Silence filled the radio. Then, one by one, the Virexian ships retreated. When the last one vanished into hyperspace, the bridge erupted in relieved cheers. Marcus looked toward Arya. "Are you all right?" She nodded slowly, her voice soft. "You fought not for victory, but for protection. My people fight for pride. You fight for each other," he smiled. "That's the human way." That night, Arya stood alone by the viewing window, staring at the stars. She thought about her people, her father, and her lost title. She remembered the laughter that once followed her everywhere, the cruel voices calling her Barren. But now, aboard this human ship, among people who valued hearts more than bloodlines, she felt something new rising inside her. Not shame, not fear, but strength. She whispered quietly to herself. Maybe being with humans was not punishment. Maybe it was destiny. Outside, the stars glowed softly, silent witnesses to the beginning of something far greater than war or peace. It was the birth of understanding. The stars outside the viewport shimmered like silver dust scattered across the endless night. The UHS Resolute drifted quietly now, repairs underway after the tense battle. For the humans, it was another day of work. But for Princess Arya Varex, it was the day her heart finally began to change. She had seen how humans fought, not with hatred or hunger for victory, but with unity. Every person on the ship had risked their life for one another. It was something her people had forgotten long ago. As she walked through the corridors, she heard laughter coming from the mess hall. The crew was tired, but they were joking, teasing, and smiling like family. She stood by the door watching them. A few waved her over, inviting her to join, but she only smiled and shook her head softly. She was still learning how to belong. That evening, Captain Marcus Hale found her standing on the observation deck again. The stars reflected in her pale silver eyes. "You've been quiet," he said. She didn't turn around. "They came for me and you fought for me. I do not understand why." Marcus crossed his arms. "Because you're part of this crew now." She looked at him slowly. "I am not human. I am not one of you." He smiled a little. "Doesn't matter. You're under my protection and that's enough." Arya's expression softened. "You speak as if it costs you nothing. My people would never risk lives for one person." Marcus looked out at the stars beside her. Then maybe that's why they're losing something greater than wars. For a long time they stood in silence. The stars seemed endless, and yet, at that moment she felt less lost. Days later, the ship received a message from Earth's Central Command. The crew gathered in the communication hall as Marcus played the transmission. A holographic officer appeared, his face serious. "Captain Hale, Virexian forces have sent an official demand. They want the return of Princess Arya Varex immediately. They claim she was taken unlawfully." The room went silent. Marcus's jaw tightened. The officer continued. "The Virexian fleet threatens to cut all peace talks and possibly attack our border colonies if she is not returned within 7 standard days." When the message ended, everyone looked at Arya. Marcus spoke first, calm but firm. "They're lying. She was given to us, I was there." The ship's medic frowned. "But the Virexians won't care about truth, sir. They want her back for politics." Arya felt her throat tighten. She could see it clearly now. Her people didn't want peace or justice. They just wanted control. She took a deep breath. "Captain," she said quietly, "you should send me back." Marcus turned sharply. "No. If you refuse, your people will suffer," she insisted. "My empire doesn't bluff. They will destroy any colony that stands in their way." Marcus's voice grew firm. "And if I send you back, they'll destroy you." "I've seen what your father thinks of you. You're not going anywhere." Arya looked down. "Why must you always fight for what's already lost?" "Because that's what makes us human," he replied softly. That night, Arya couldn't sleep. She sat by the small window in her room, watching the stars drift by. In her heart, 2 worlds were at war: her loyalty to her people and the gratitude she felt toward the humans who had given her freedom. When she closed her eyes, she remembered her childhood, the cold palace halls, the whispers that called her Barren, the way her father never looked at her with pride. Every memory felt heavy, but now she had seen another way of living. Humans had shown her kindness without gain, respect without reason, and courage without fear. Still, she couldn't bear the thought that Earth might go to war because of her. Before dawn, she made a decision. Marcus entered the control deck early in the morning, only to find the communications console active. The crew reported a distress signal sent from one of the escape pods, launched without authorization. "Who left?" Marcus demanded. The officer's face was pale. "It's Princess Arya, sir." Marcus froze. For a second, his calm expression cracked. Then he moved fast. "Track her pod. Get me coordinates now." The officer worked quickly. "She's heading toward the Virexian border." Message left behind in the system. Marcus opened the message. Arya's soft voice filled the bridge. "Captain Hale, I cannot let your people suffer for me. Thank you for showing me kindness. I will return to my world and face my fate. Do not follow, please." The message ended. Marcus clenched his fists. "Prepare pursuit course. We're going after her." "Sir, she asked us not to," the lieutenant said carefully. Marcus looked out at the stars, his eyes hard. "I don't take orders from someone walking into death." Meanwhile, Arya's small pod flew silently through space. She stared out at the stars, tears glimmering in her eyes. "I must end this," she whispered to herself. "I must prove I'm not a curse." As her pod crossed into Virexian space, a patrol ship intercepted her. The bright lights surrounded her small craft, and she heard the sharp, cold voice of a commander. "Princess Arya Varex, you are ordered to surrender yourself to Imperial custody." She didn't resist. "I surrender," she said softly. "Take me home." But she already knew. Her home no longer existed for her. They escorted her to a grand warship where an admiral awaited. He looked at her with disdain. "The Emperor thought you dead," he said coldly. "Now he'll see you dragged before him, proof that defiance has a cost." Arya bowed her head but remained silent. Her heart hurt, but she felt no fear. She had faced worse pain in loneliness than she ever would in chains. Hours later, the Virexian flagship detected incoming ships. The alarms blared. Officers shouted. "Human vessels approaching. Multiple warp signatures." The admiral's eyes widened. "Impossible." They wouldn't dare. Outside, the UHS Resolute dropped from warp, leading a small fleet of Earth's patrol ships. Arya felt her heart stop when she saw the human ships forming around her position. Marcus's voice came over the channel, steady, commanding and filled with quiet anger. "Virexian flagship, this is Captain Marcus Hale of the United Human Fleet. You have something that belongs under Earth's protection." "Release the princess," the admiral hissed. "You are trespassing in Imperial space, human. Leave now or be destroyed." Marcus's voice didn't waver. "Then you'll learn what happens when you threaten someone we protect." For a moment, silence hung between the fleets, the calm before a storm. Inside the Virexian ship, Arya stood before the admiral. "Please," she whispered, "don't start another war." "Let them go," the admiral glared at her. "You brought this shame upon us. If there is war, it is your fault." Arya lifted her chin. "No, it is yours. Because you mistake cruelty for strength." The admiral raised his hand to strike her, but before he could, the ship trembled violently. Outside, human ships fired precision blasts that disabled Virexian engines. "Power down your weapons," Marcus ordered. "We won't fire on you if you stand down." The admiral's fury turned to disbelief. In less than a minute, his flagship was surrounded, its systems crippled without a single fatal shot. The humans had won through skill, not destruction. Arya was escorted to the shuttle bay by Virexian guards who no longer looked proud. She stepped onto the human shuttle waiting for her. When the doors closed and the engines ignited, she looked at Marcus through the small window. He smiled faintly. "Next time, don't run away." She lowered her head, tears in her eyes. "I thought I was saving you." He shook his head. "You were never the one who needed saving." Back aboard the Resolute, the crew cheered her return, but Arya remained quiet. As the stars passed by outside, she finally understood what it meant to belong. Not to a nation, but to people who cared. Her people had cast her out, but humanity had taught her what loyalty truly meant. She whispered softly to herself, "I chose wrong once, but not again. My loyalty is to those who see me as more than a title." And for the first time in her life, the Barren princess felt something powerful. Pride. Arya Varek stood on the deck of the UHS Resolute, staring at the stars in silence. The hum of the ship's engines filled the air, calm and steady. It had been many months since the battle with the Virexian patrol. The crew had repaired the ship, but the scars on its hull still told the story of that fierce fight. Arya had changed during those months. The sadness and fear that once clouded her eyes were fading. Now, when she looked into the mirror, she saw not a rejected princess, but someone with purpose. She had found a place among humans, and that changed everything. The humans treated her as an equal. The engineers came to her for advice about energy systems. The medics asked about alien biology. And the scientists worked beside her on new experiments. Her days were full, but her heart was peaceful. Marcus Hale watched this transformation quietly. He had always seen her as more than a political gift. She was intelligent, calm, and brave. When she smiled now, it wasn't the polite smile of a royal. It was real. One morning, Marcus found her in the laboratory, staring at a glowing blue crystal. "You've been here all night," he said. "You should rest." Arya turned, smiling faintly. "This crystal contains the same energy my people used for centuries. I'm trying to make it safer, maybe even cleaner. Humans deserve better energy than what the stars bleed." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "And you've been working without sleep for that?" She laughed softly. "I suppose I am learning human habits," he chuckled. "Careful, princess. You'll become one of us soon." Her eyes softened. Maybe that wouldn't be so bad. The moment was quiet, almost peaceful. But that peace would not last. Weeks later, strange readings began to appear in Arya's health scans. It was Dr. Kim, the ship's medical officer, who first noticed it. She frowned at her screen, tapping through the data again and again. "Something's changing," she whispered to herself. Arya was sitting nearby, reading a report on stellar fusion. She looked up when the doctor went silent. "Is something wrong?" Dr. Kim hesitated. "Not wrong exactly, but your cellular structure is evolving. Your body's adapting to the human environment. It's repairing itself in ways I didn't think were possible." Arya blinked. "Repairing?" "Yes," Kim said. "You were born with damaged reproductive cells, but now they're regenerating. Your body is healing itself." For a long moment, Arya didn't move. The words didn't seem real. She had spent her whole life believing she was broken. Her people had used that flaw as a reason to cast her aside. And now, here among the humans who accepted her, her body had done the impossible. Her voice trembled.
"You mean—"
"I'm no longer barren." Kim nodded slowly. "It appears so. I don't know how or why, but your body has changed completely. You're whole, Arya." Tears filled Arya's eyes. For the first time in her life, she felt truly alive. She covered her mouth, trying to hide her shaking smile. Later, she told Marcus. He listened in silence, his expression unreadable, then finally smiled. "That's incredible, Arya. Maybe the universe was waiting for you to find the right home." She looked at him, voice quiet. "Home? Yes," he said softly. "You're part of our family now. And whatever happens, we'll stand with you." Arya turned to the stars outside the viewport. Her reflection shimmered in the glass, no longer the image of a lost princess, but of someone reborn. As weeks turned into months, Arya's discovery brought new excitement to the ship. Scientists from Earth requested her help with genetic studies. They wanted to understand how alien and human biology could influence each other. Arya agreed, eager to share her knowledge. But deep inside, she also felt something else, a strange connection to humanity that went beyond science. The humans had given her kindness when her own people had given her shame. They had shown her that life could bloom even in broken soil. One evening, she and Marcus walked along the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly around them, glowing like silver rivers. "I used to believe my destiny ended the day my people gave me away," Arya said quietly. "But now I see that was only the beginning." Marcus smiled. "Sometimes destiny hides behind cruelty. The universe has a strange sense of humor." Arya looked at him and said softly, "Humans have something my people never understood. Hope. Even when everything seems lost, you still believe there's light waiting." Marcus glanced at her. "And now you do too," she nodded. "Because I've seen it." But peace never lasted long in the galaxy. One morning, the ship's alarm sounded. The communication officer called out, "Multiple ships entering our range." Identified as Virexian Royal Fleet, Marcus's expression hardened. What's their message? A voice came through the speakers, a cold, commanding tone. This is the Virexian High Council. You are harboring royal property. Surrender the exile known as Arya Varix immediately. Arya froze. Her heart pounded as old memories returned. The mocking laughter, the words Barren Princess, the humiliation in her father's eyes. Marcus's voice was firm. This is Captain Marcus Hale of the United Human Ship Resolute. Arya Varix is under Earth's protection. She is not property. She is free. The alien commander's voice darkened. You will hand her over, human, or we will bring war to your world. The transmission cut off. The bridge fell silent. The crew looked at Marcus, waiting for orders. He turned to Arya. They're not taking you back. She shook her head. They won't stop. They cannot accept that I am alive, that I am healed. Then they'll have to accept it the hard way, Marcus said, because you're one of us now. Arya stood straight, her fear replaced by strength. Then I will face them, Captain. Not as a prisoner, but as a voice of truth. Preparations began immediately. Human ships across the nearby sectors received the distress signal. Within hours, a fleet of human vessels gathered around the Resolute. The humans were ready to protect one of their own. As the Virexian ships approached, Arya watched from the bridge. Her reflection in the glass was calm, determined. She had run from her past long enough. Now she would face it. The Virexian commander appeared on the screen, a tall alien in silver armor. You dare defy the Empire, Princess, he said. You belong to us, Arya met his gaze. I belong to no one. You cast me out, mocked me, and called me Barren. But among these humans I found what your empire never gave me. Life and dignity. The commander's eyes narrowed. You would betray your own blood for them? She stepped forward. They treated me as more than blood. They treated me as family, the commander growled. Then you will share their fate when we destroy them. Before Marcus could respond, Arya raised her hand. No, you will not destroy them, because this time I will stand and fight. Her voice echoed through the bridge, strong and full of fire. Marcus smiled faintly, proud of her courage. The battle did not begin that day. The Virexian fleet withdrew temporarily, perhaps waiting for orders, but everyone knew they would return soon. That night, Arya stood alone in her quarters looking out at the stars. She touched her stomach gently, thinking of what Dr. Kim had told her, that she had been healed, that she could give life now. A quiet tear slid down her cheek, not of sadness, but of wonder. Among the humans, she whispered, I was broken no more. She looked out at the stars again, her voice soft but full of strength. If my people return to take me, they will not find a gift or a prisoner. They will find a woman reborn. The engines of the Resolute hummed in the distance, steady and sure. Humanity was ready, and so was she. In the silence of deep space, the once barren princess smiled, because she knew the next time the Virexians came, she would meet them, not as a symbol of shame, but as a symbol of life. Months passed, and the galaxy slowly grew accustomed to the story of the barren princess who had found a new life among humans. Arya Varix had become more than a guest on the UHS Resolute. She was a valued member of the crew, respected for her intelligence, courage, and wisdom. She no longer saw herself as broken. She had learned she could heal, adapt, and thrive. Her health scans had stabilized. Dr. Kim had confirmed it many times. Arya's reproductive system was fully repaired. It was a miracle that even she had struggled to believe. She now carried the possibility of life within her. It was a gift she had never imagined receiving, and yet it felt entirely natural. Marcus Hale noticed the change in her almost immediately. She moved with more confidence, spoke with more warmth, and her laughter, once rare, now filled the corridors of the Resolute. The crew, who had grown fond of her, admired this transformation. One day, while walking through the observation deck, Arya spoke softly to Marcus. Captain, I never thought I'd have the chance to be more than my title, to be more than what my father decided I was. Marcus smiled. You're more than any title, Arya. You've always been that. You just didn't know it yet. She looked out at the stars. I think, maybe I want to see if I can bring life into this world. If I am truly healed, I want to know what it is to create something new. Marcus's eyes softened. Then you will have every chance. We'll stand with you every step of the way. Arya smiled faintly, the first time she felt ready to embrace a future she had never imagined. Weeks later, Earth scientists had helped the Resolute set a course for a human colony near a lush, habitable planet. Arya chose to settle there temporarily, where she could prepare for the next phase of her life without interference from the Virexian Empire. Life on the colony was peaceful. Arya spent her days learning human agriculture, medicine, and childcare. She studied human biology in a practical sense, combining it with her alien knowledge. Every day she felt the spark of life growing stronger within her. And then one morning Dr. Kim approached her with a smile. "Arya, congratulations. You're pregnant." Arya froze. Her heart skipped a beat. She had known this was possible, but hearing the words spoken aloud felt like a dream. She placed her hand on her stomach, feeling the faint stirrings of new life. Tears filled her eyes, but this time they were tears of joy. For the first time, she could truly call herself a mother, something her father had said was impossible. Word of her pregnancy reached the Virexian Empire slowly, but when it did, it sent shockwaves through the royal halls. The nobles who had once laughed at her whispered in fear and disbelief. The emperor summoned her once again, demanding her return. He could not believe the miracle of her pregnancy. The princess he had mocked had found life where he said it could not exist. When a Virexian envoy arrived to retrieve her, Marcus met them at the airlock. His tone was calm but unwavering. "Arya Varex is under our protection. She will not return to you," the envoy hissed. "The Emperor will not forgive this defiance. She is still your property." Marcus's eyes hardened. "She is no one's property. She is a mother, a member of this crew, and a human ally. If you touch her, the consequences will be dire." The envoy retreated, reporting back to the Emperor, who could not comprehend what had happened. Arya had returned as something more than a princess. She had returned as a mother, a living proof that life could triumph even where others claimed none was possible. On the colony, Arya prepared for the birth of her child. Marcus remained at her side, unwavering. He supported her through every stage, carrying her when she was tired and offering comfort when her doubts surfaced. Arya looked at him one evening, the twin moons of the planet glowing through the window. "I never imagined life could be like this," she said softly. Marcus held her hand. "You've created something beautiful, and you've shown everyone, including your people, what strength really is." She smiled faintly. "I was never truly broken, only lost." "Then you've found your way," he said. The day finally came. Arya labored with the calm strength she had learned from humans and her own inner resolve. The humans who had become her family guided her gently. Their support was unwavering, full of patience and care. Hours passed. Then, with a cry that echoed through the small medical facility, her child was born. A perfect blend of human and Virexian traits. Tiny hands, soft silver skin, and eyes bright with life. Arya held her child close, tears of joy streaming freely. "This is life," she whispered, overwhelmed by the miracle she had created. "This is hope." Marcus knelt beside her, holding her hand. "This is the future, Arya, a future you chose." The crew outside cheered quietly, careful not to startle the newborn. The Barren princess had finally returned as something more, a mother, a symbol of resilience, and proof that life could flourish even in the most unlikely places. News of Arya's child spread quickly, even reaching the Virexian Empire. The Emperor, who had once mocked her, could not believe what he saw. The princess they had discarded had returned not just alive, but with a child. The nobles were silent. Many were afraid. Others were in awe. They had thought she was weak and worthless. Now she was a living testament to life, courage, and the human way. Arya's child became a symbol, a bridge between humans and Virexians, proof that hope, kindness, and resilience could overcome even the cruelest judgments. Months later, Arya and Marcus stood on the colony's viewing deck, watching the stars. Their child slept peacefully in Arya's arms. "I never imagined this life," she said softly. "I was once mocked, abandoned, and called barren. And now," Marcus smiled, "now you've given life. You've given hope. You've given the galaxy a reason to believe." Arya looked down at her child. "And maybe my people will finally understand that life isn't about titles or bloodlines. It's about courage, love, and the choices we make." Marcus kissed her forehead gently. "You've taught all of us that lesson, Arya." She leaned against him, holding their child close. The stars stretched endlessly before them, shining like witnesses to the story of a princess who had been mocked, cast aside, and called barren, and yet who had returned as a mother strong, proud, and alive. For the first time in her life, Arya felt complete. Her past, her shame, and her exile were no longer chains. She had forged a new destiny, not defined by her father, her people, or her title, but by the life she had created and the love that surrounded her. The barren princess had become a mother. And in that transformation, she had found her true power.